Why did I make an album? I think an album is a nice snapshot in time for where you are in your comedy and what's going on in your life, and hopefully as you're evolving as an artist and a person, every couple of years or sooner or longer, who you are and what your stories are changes. One of the things I've liked is all of my favorite comedians growing up, George Carlin, Chris Rock, they were always coming up with new material. They weren't just resting on their laurels. Carlin, for example, had 13, if not more, HBO specials, one every couple of years, where he's still thinking, he's evolving. So my goal as a comedian has always been to evolve, and recording an album is a way to capture the evolution in these little time shots a couple of years apart. You kind of see where I grow, what I've been up to, how my thinking has evolved, how the world is changing. All of the comedians that are at the top of the game right now that you've heard of that are super famous, they're putting out a special a year pretty much, which is, I think, the new standard, although Dave Chappelle put out 4 in 1 year, which is insane. But I think everyone else, if you can put out an album every 12 to 18 months, a new hour for your fans, then you're turning over material quickly, but still not pressing it. So I'm almost there. This one took me 2 years. Putting out an album, one, it's for your fans who maybe they saw you on some internet meme that can't come to a show, but want to hear more than your 5-minute videos that you put out. They get to hear a lot of what you're doing. Also, when you put out an album, one of the main ways, so if you're not a super famous comedian, you need to be making money like 10 different ways in comedy to get by, you know, whether you're doing a little bit of acting or radio voices or books. Comedy albums is another type of revenue stream. There's actually three main ways to make money on a comedy album. One is when someone buys it on iTunes or Amazon. You get some of that money. Another way is Spotify or other internet streaming sites. Every time someone streams you get like 1/29th of a cent, but eventually if you get enough streams, that adds up to a few extra dollars in your account. And thirdly, and I think most importantly, Sirius XM Radio has 5 or 6 or 10 dedicated comedy channels. And every time they play one or more of your tracks on XM, you get paid. And sometimes that can add up to a couple $100 to a couple $1,000 a month, depending obviously on how often they play. But the more comedy albums you put out, the more likely Sirius is to want one of your tracks. Let's say they're putting together a Christmas themed hour or a alcohol drinking party stories hour. The more different material you have, the more likely something is to fit for something they're doing, and then that gets you more into their rotation. Also with Sirius, you never know who's listening. For example, a few years back, when Amy Schumer was known, but not movie star known, I believe she was on either the Howard Stern show or some other Sirius XM show, and Judd Apatow happened to be listening to that show, and he was like, who is this person? She's really funny. I want to work with her. And that's how Judd started working with Amy Schumer and how she got Trainwreck. So it's all these little random things that you can't always control, but just putting yourself out there and your material and comedy out there helps. And putting out a comedy album is a great way to give yourself a few extra chances for good luck to occur. I was also curious, because I was born in Russia and Russia has some censorship, if my jokes, that a lot of them involve Russia or my Russian family, if I could get it banned on Russian iTunes. I thought it would be pretty funny and interesting if that happened. I hear it almost happened. I don't know if it got held up or what, but eventually it still went through. But that would have been nice PR if I actually did get it banned. But maybe the next time. The reason to do a comedy album is because a lot of comedy right now is consumed in 3 or 5 minute chunks. You know, you see someone's funny YouTube bit about sitting in a chair or riding an escalator or whatever, and you like it, but I think there's a big difference between just seeing someone's 1 or 2 short little jokes and versus seeing them as a person for an hour, just them being themselves with the material they've worked on combined with what's happening in the crowd that night, and you kind of really get to know that person and performer. And not everyone is yet lucky enough to get a Netflix hour-long special where everyone can watch the video. So if you're not yet getting Netflix hours, one way to give your fans and random people who might enjoy your comedy and become your fans an opportunity to like you is to put out a longer hour-long piece so that you can sense the flow and kind of the thought behind it and kind of really learn who that performer is as a person.